Dr. Model Stein here, reporting in once again. I hope that you have been having a wonderful week so far. Can you believe it is Wednesday night again already? Well, I'm happy to see you here. It has been a nice and cool week here in North Georgia, but I am sure that it will warm up again before the summer is over. As you know, we have our show and tell once per month, and that is always something planned that we all look forward to. Well, tonight we are starting what we hope will become another planned show. This one we are calling the Squadron Triple Play. This show is divided up into 3 parts. Tonight's Triple Play will start off with Shop Talk with Brandon. The second part of the show will be Back to the Bench, and tonight's episode will feature Tom Gaston talking about kit bashing and scratch building to create unique one-of-a-kind models. Speaking of Tom, I hope you guys like him because for some reason he keeps coming back to hang out with us. Yes, we will be seeing more and more of him. The final part of the show will be called Rivet Counting. Tonight's episode will feature Jeff Hearn's USN Camouflage Part 1. We are excited about this new format and hope that you are too, as we have some exciting subjects to cover in future shows. Well, I'm going to go find my jar of pickles and a nice slice of lemon for my tea. Then I will sit back and get ready for the show. I hope you have a great rest of your week. Until next time, this is Dr. Model Stein signing off.
What's going on, guys? It's Wednesday night, and here we are at Squadron Live. I appreciate you being here. It's like I always say, it's always a good time. Always look forward to this, and I am very happy to see you tonight. We've got a new show format, I guess. It's not really that big of a deal, but it's we're just always trying to make this Wednesday night a little bit better for you guys and for us too. Keep it interesting, and hopefully with this new format, we may not do this every week. We might do it once a month, 2 or 3 times a month. Of course, we've got our show and tell once a month for sure. But with this, it allows us to perhaps plan ahead, get some guests in here. Of course, tonight, it's of course me. Here I am, and we'll have Jeff in here as we always do, and also Tom that's been with us the last few weeks. But going forward, we've got some other guests lined up to take part in this triple play, as we're calling it. But we'll see what happens tonight. It should be kind of cool. I'm looking forward to seeing what Tom has to say about kit bashing and scratch building, and basically creating something out of your own mind, out of parts that are just laying around. Maybe take an old kit and cut it up. So we'll see what Tom has to say. And then Jeff, we've been talking a lot in the past few weeks, specifically about this Arizona kit that's come out from Shu and You, and a lot of people have been asking us about colors for that, and Jeff decided he was going to put together what he's calling the USN Camouflage series, and tonight he's got the first part of that prepared, and it's just a quick introduction of USN Camouflage back World War II, right before World War II. So we'll see what he's got to say about that in just a little while. But first, I want to say hello to everybody in the chat. Hello, Lawn Care Novice. It's good to see you tonight. And Joseph is here. And Joseph, a part of my shop talk, which is the first portion of this triple play tonight, is talking about a few new items, perhaps some upcoming items. And I don't have too much to talk about tonight. I wanted to make sure to leave enough time for Jeff and for Tom, because what they've got to talk about is a bit more interesting than what I do. But Joseph is asking about shirts with the Squadron logo on it, and that is one of the things I wanted to mention. We do have our what we are calling the Squadron merch section, Squadron merchandise. It's on the website. We've got this new shirt that features a B-17. I know that's not a shirt with the Squadron logo on it, but we've got our hats, we've got shot glasses, we've got koozies, we've got little lapel pins, we've got all sorts of stuff. And I noticed that down further in the chat, and I was looking just a minute ago, and I don't remember who said it, but I'll find it in a minute. The bags that you see here behind me, the Nationals bags, those aren't in that section yet, but they will be soon. We've got all sorts of cool stuff in there. And Joseph, specifically about the Squadron logo shirts, we did this shirt first, this B-17 shirt. It was a cool idea we had, and we were going to see how that went to make sure people were interested in buying shirts that we produce. And they have done very well, the gray one and the black one both, and they sold quite a bit better than we were expecting. So we do have some other shirts planned and lined up, and of course a shirt with a Squadron logo. We've got 2 or 3 different versions of the Squadron logo, and we're looking at utilizing those on different shirts. So hopefully we will have that coming very soon. David, good to see you tonight, and Ken is here. Good to see you. Jason, I hope you have a great Labor Day weekend as well. Yes, that is coming up this weekend, so you guys have a great weekend for sure. Do something fun, maybe build some models. That's always a good time. Frank, it's good to see you, buddy, all the way on the other side of the world. I hope you have a great day. And Frank, by the way, Frank has been working on a 200 scale hood battle cruiser, so he is needing some paint. He wants to use our paint, and we're hooking Frank up with everything he needs. We've got one color left, and it's done. It's actually here, but the roll of label. This is just keeping you guys in the know. The roll of labels that my wife uses to her and her guys run everything through this label machine. For whatever reason, one of those colors that you need, Frank, I forget which one it is, or I'd tell you. The roll of labels, I don't know what happened to it, but it got all shredded up. So they can't run it through the roll machine. They're having to label the bottles individually by hand. So she told me they'll have that done hopefully by the end of the week. And then I will send you that email response you've been waiting on and let you know the colors that you need, and everything's going to be good for you. And we'll get them packed up and headed your way. Jeff, it's good to see you tonight. Let's see, the Silver Searcher Wayne is here. Good to see you tonight. This is the yeah. We were talking about missing up at IPMS. Hey, this goes for anybody. I know that at IPMS, at the Nationals, we stay pretty busy, and that's because we bring so much stuff, and we want to have a lot of things for everybody to look at. So it's really great. I love that everybody likes coming in our booth, but don't ever feel like you can't walk up and wave at me or grab my hand and shake my hand. I've had a lot of people say that they wish they had been able to say hello to me, and I feel bad that I wasn't able to speak to everybody. So at the show, anytime, I know I stay busy, but I bring a couple of, you saw Jared and Jackie there helping me at the register. So anytime you want to say hello, make sure you say hey to me, and let's talk for a minute before you leave the show. Danny, it's good to see you tonight, buddy. And Mark is here. When are we going to see 700 20s and 40s? So as you saw, our 20s and 40s in 350th scale, we had them. We had them last week, and they sold out like almost immediately. So we are to give you guys a little update on where we are with 3D. So um, we spent a couple of months printing stuff for nationals, and the majority of what we had there was gone by the end of the day Wednesday. I think we've told you that. And then we had some stuff left over. We put it on the website last week and it's gone. So what we have learned is that you guys like what we're producing, and that's a great thing, and we really appreciate it. What we also learned is our current production capabilities are not sufficient. So we have new employees starting. They actually started this week, and they are in training. And we're going to take some of our other employees who had shown interest in doing 3D and doing the production and running all that for us. And we are actually in the process of building a new facility outside of our warehouse where we can do all of our 3D production. Most likely, my wife will move the paint operation into that facility as well. So we're working on all that. We're going to get the production ramped up to where we can meet the needs of our sales. So that's where we are with that. And specifically on the 700 scale stuff, Mark, they're done. It's just a matter of getting them produced. So that will be coming along as quickly as possible. Tom, it's good to see you tonight down in Florida. As always, JL is here. JL, is anybody building anything? That's right. If any of you guys are working on a kit tonight, put it down in the comments. Let us all know what you're working on. Let's see. And Tom is asking to change the music to Glenn Miller's In the Mood. The funny thing about YouTube is they're very strict on music licensing. You can pretty much show anything visually that you want to, but when it comes to audio, they are super, super picky. So I'll have to look. That's a good song. It really is, and I love that song. I'll have to look and see if it's something that that's allowed to be on my channel or not. That's why most of the music we use is just random stuff that you've never heard of. So we do our best to pick out something that's nice. But let's see. Frank talking about Rivet detail decals. Well, Frank, as you'll hear us talking more and more, this back to the bench portion of tonight's show, this is just the first time, but we've got some plans for the future and different decals and the ways to use different decals, whether it's traditional water slide, whether it's dry transfer, whether it's these new pre-painted 3D printed decals, all these different things. That's one of the things we've got planned for a future show, just to talk about the different types of that kind of thing. So it'll be neat. We'll see where that goes. Derek is here and Alan. Let's see. Joe is asking about update set for 200 scale Fletcher. If you're referring to the one that we previously announced, it is in the same boat as what I was just talking about with our production capabilities. So as soon as we get our new place set up and we get the ball rolling on that, that will be coming along. Many of those items are ready or close to ready. So we'll have more on that in the coming weeks. Let's see. Oh, Randy Harvey is the one that was asking about the Squadron bags. So we'll have those up on the site soon. The reason I haven't put them on there yet is we shipped one out to all of the Eagle Club members along with their other goodies they've got, and they've not all received their shipment yet. And I want them to know they got one before they go to perhaps buy one on the website. So let's see. Ed Groon, hey buddy, how are you? The 350th scale USS Stevens is what I assume you're talking about, because the 200 scale one from Trumpeter has not even been released yet. But the 350 scale one from I Love Kit, I don't know. Communication with that company is far and few between, but the last we heard, they were supposed to be released in September. But again, I know nothing. I haven't heard from them in several weeks. So hopefully that's still the case. And Ed, I also saw your message about Iron Shipwright's submarines. So I'm glad you picked one of those up, and I'm glad that you see the new direction that Iron Shipwrights is going in with all the 3D parts. So all of their submarines, they are actually in stock now in our warehouse. We are working on getting pictures of them all, and they should, fingers crossed, be for sale before the weekend. We got them all put on the site Monday, I think, and we're going through getting all the pictures put on now. So all of their 350 scale subs are in stock, and there's several dozen of them. So neat stuff. If you're a sub guy, check those out. All right. I am going to go ahead and say hello to everybody else. There's a bunch of you guys in here. JL and Lee and Brandon. Kimberly's here. James is here. Arnell. Arnell says if we start stocking up on Gundam kits, he's in trouble. Well, it's sometime down the road. I really hope it's a good thing. Frank and Ron. Skip is here. Wayne. Dave is here. Good to see you, buddy. Everybody that's joining us tonight, I really appreciate it. I'm going to jump in here real quick and tell you about a few new kits before I flip over to our back to the bench. So, as you all know, or perhaps know if you're a ship guy, Trumpeter has announced a 350th scale Royal Oak. This isn't a brand new announcement. It was a few weeks ago, but the reason I point this out is Trumpeter's kind of always doing some 350th scale ships. And to some extent, I guess they think they're running out of the mainline subjects. So they're starting to do some of these others. Royal Oak's going to be great. But the one that they just announced this week is interesting. They are finally releasing their 350th scale Scharnhorst. And if you've ever seen one of Trumpeter's catalogs, in the back of the catalog, they've got a lot of future announcements that they make. And they're just 3D renders. There's no box art. It's just a picture and a name. Scharnhorst has been in their upcoming releases for a while. But as you may know, and if you don't, you're about to, whenever Trumpeter announces or shows off an actual box art and puts it on their website as a new release, that's when it's actually real and it's actually coming. So happy to see 350 scale Scharnhorst coming. It will be interesting to compare this to the old Dragon version, which of course is a fantastic kit. So be interesting to see how this goes. Next up, we've got a lot of new monthly magazines. Of course, we carry several different magazines, and right now we've got the aviation modeling from Phoenix, we've got the Military Modelcraft International, and we've got two last month's issues are already on the website now. This month's issues, or next month's, whichever, I forget, sometimes they're a month ahead. They're here, same thing. We're getting pictures on those. I should have those up and available tomorrow or Friday at the latest. But all these will be available by the weekend. Some are available now. And then we're still waiting on the next round of magazines from Doolittle Publishing. But just want to let you guys know this stuff is finally here. Edward, we've got a lot of new kits on the way from Edward. They've got this 48 scale They're calling it a Schnell bomber, but lots of cool stuff. They're pretty excited about this round of releases. I've got the next round of releases too, but they've not given us the box arts. And this kind of ties in a little bit to one of the other subjects that I mentioned that I was going to talk about tonight, and that was the email that I sent out last week about tariffs, about de minimis shipping going away. And if you saw that email, hopefully you understand that my intentions was only to let you guys kind of know how we at Squadron are dealing with it. I'm not speaking for any other company. I'm not speaking for any manufacturer. I am only speaking for us here at Squadron. We've been paying tariffs for several months now. Prices have gone up because of it. We do our very best to keep whatever that price that has to go up, keep it at a minimum. I mentioned in the email, if there's a 15% tariff and there's a model kit that's $100, it's not an exact science that it's going to go to $115. And the reason for that is because you got to understand that if we're selling it for $100, we pay something less than $100. So the tariff we have to pay on that is whatever that price is that's less than $100. And then there's all sorts of other factors too. We don't have to pay tariffs on shipping. And if a model kit costs me $50 and it costs me $50 to get it shipped to me, then I really have $100 in that model kit. And of course, I'm using made up round numbers here. But So hopefully you understood that email. There's a lot of stuff to that. One thing that I did want to mention tonight that I did not mention in that email that was brought to my attention this week is if you a lot of other countries now are not shipping to the United States. So if you're used to being able to buy whatever model kit or whatever photo etch company that you like to buy from, if you are used to buying from them direct, perhaps you're not able to do that right now, but we still can as a distributor, as an importer, because we're not using the traditional shipping methods that you would if you're buying one or two or three kits. We're buying literally pallets loads and sometimes container loads of these things. So we will continue to get everything that we are carrying. We are continuing to bring on new brands. We're in talks with a couple of brands right now that I didn't think we would ever be able to get, and it might happen. I don't know, but we've got a lot of brands from Japan on the way that I mentioned in the email. We're going to have Fujimi now. We're going to have Hasegawa again. Just all sorts of good stuff on the way to us. But the one thing that I wanted to mention that a couple of guys mentioned to me, and I knew this, I just didn't think about saying it, is if you buy something from overseas, everybody's like, what is the de minimis and how does that affect us? Why is it different now? Before now, if you bought less than $800 worth of stuff, and this $800 number, this has changed throughout the year, but to my knowledge, most recently it was an $800 threshold. And if you bought anything less than that, so you buy a model kit or a photo etch or whatever, it's going to ship in. It's going to come straight to you, just like it was shipped from anywhere here from me. Now, with that going away, anything you buy, in addition to all the other hassles and headaches and fees and charges and tariffs and everything else, beyond all that, when it gets here, and there's all these different ways to buy things from overseas. You can buy something DD, this and that and everything else, basically where they pay all of the duties, all the taxes, all the tariffs for you, so it comes in. But the one thing that they can't do is pay the customs brokerage fees. And what that means is when something comes into you, somebody at customs has got to look at it, somebody's got to file papers, and they don't work for free. So that brokerage fee, it's all over the place. It could be $20. It could be less. It could be a lot more. You just never know. And this is, we have to deal with this also, bringing in things through the container yards and all that. And it's quite complicated for us. Thankfully, that's not my department. But that's just another one of those things that it's just a big mess. And I hate it for you guys if you were used to buying stuff from overseas. But the good thing is we can help you with that because we stock all this stuff in our warehouse. And we're going to do the best we can to continue stocking and perhaps even stocking more of it now. So that's a little bit on that. Before I jump out of here, I want to show you a couple of more new kits. And this one is kind of exciting to me because, as you guys probably know, one of my favorite ships is the Montana, USS Montana. I don't know why. I guess I'm just a sucker for things that coulda, woulda, shoulda. And this is a new A150 class, also referred to as the Super Yamato. And this is going to be in 350th scale. And it's very, very detailed. This is from the same company that has just brought us recently the USS Arizona. The Chuanyu, as I call it. Now, unfortunately, they told me that Chuanyu is not the name of their company, and that's actually where they are. But the actual name of their company, I'm going to have to freshen up on my Chinese because I can't exactly pronounce it. So I'll get back with you later on that. So for tonight, we're calling them Chuanyu, but this is their new upcoming A150 Super Yamato. And as you can tell, it is slap full of detail parts. Now, as we're looking at this, and if you're like me, you're getting excited about it, there is one thing I have to tell you about it. So if you saw the Arizona, it's an amazing kit, and it's like everything a ship modeler would want. The one difference in this and the Arizona is the fact that this is not in Arizona, and they do not think that it will sell as well. And I can't argue that fact. I mean, Arizona is quite possibly one of the most famous ships in the world. But this, if you're let's just say a niche ship builder, you like this kind of subject, and I'm all over it. I know I want one, but here's the difference, and it's coming up in the next slide. The hull is 3D printed. This is not going to have any injection parts in it whatsoever. So this kit is 100% 3D printed, brass turn, aluminum turn parts, photo etch, wood deck mask, all the works. It's got everything you want. The biggest difference between this and the Arizona, though, is what you're looking at here on the screen, that in the Arizona would have been injection plastic. This time around, it's going to be 3D printed. Now, here is a shot of all the parts. So you see the hull up top, and just from a ship builder's point of view, I don't mind the 3D printed hull. The only thing that's going to be, I'll just go ahead and say it, you're going to have to deal with a seam right in the middle of it. Not the end of the world, as my dad would like to say, it's not a hill for a climber if you're a ship modeler, and if you're going to go to the all of this work with all this super deluxe parts, it shouldn't be a problem at all. But just know that that is going to be something to deal with as you're building this. But all of that aside, this thing looks like it's going to be an absolute blast to build, and I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see how it does. That was the end of it. So there you go. So that's coming up. I don't have a firm price on it yet, but as you probably have already figured out, it's not going to be cheap. It's probably, if I had to guess, going to be somewhere north of $500. It could be right there at $500. I don't know, but it's not going to be a cheap kit. It'll be a low production run. But we will, as soon as we get a finalized price, we'll put this up for pre-order. And if you want one, grab it fast, because I don't know exactly how many they're going to make, but it's not going to be many. So moving right along, you know about our P-47D from Nationals. We've talked about it pretty much nonstop for the past month or two or three. But one thing that I had kind of hinted at was the fact that this being a basic kit, we were going to try to obtain the upgraded parts for this to basically turn it into an advanced version, as MiniArt often does with their kits. Their other P-47s, they've got basic, they've got deluxe, or advanced, I think they call it. And we were kind of just waiting for them to get their own Razorbacks out in the advanced boxings so that we could try to make a deal with them to get the photo etch and the extra sprue. And we have, I believe, fingers crossed, that we've got that secured, but we're not going to have very many. So here's what we're going to get. Basically, the difference in a basic set and an advanced set is the photo etch sheet that you see here and this other sheet down below. Or, well, not sheet, this other plastic sprue. This replaces some of the parts so you can open it up. The basic kit comes with solid pieces. You can't open them up, any of that kind of stuff. So this is what we're looking at. The difference in a basic P-47 and an advanced P-47 is around $15. So I am imagining that this set is going to be somewhere in that ballpark, basically to make up the difference in the price there. So that'll be coming. I don't know exactly when. It'll probably be at least a month or two. Perhaps even 3. I don't know. They're going to produce these for us along with their advanced run. So if you and these are only going to be available to those who bought this. Now, I know a lot of you bought them at Nationals, obviously. So if this is something you're interested in, please email me, and we'll get you hooked up on that. It's not going to be something that is readily available like most things we sell. All right, now last, this is another kit that we've got coming. We've talked a lot. I know that who's it? Frank, I think, is always asking us where we are with the Birds of War stuff. And the 3D, the little 3D ones, those are in the same ball field as the rest of our 3D stuff. As soon as we get our production facility up and running better, running at all, we'll have those. But our last kit that was 1/6 scale from Roberto was the Memphis Belle that you've probably seen us talk about. And we have a new kit from Roberto. It's done. And it's here. We're working on getting it molded and cast and all that fun stuff. But this is a little bit different. It's not an actual nose art this time, but rather it is based on Rosie the Riveter. Of course, we have all seen the original poster, We Can Do It. And we probably all know exactly who Rosie the Riveter or who all the Rosie the Riveters were. And this sculpt is from Roberto. It's based on this. We're actually going to offer it. The kit comes with 2 different heads. You can see the 2 different heads represented here. One with her hair up, kind of like the original poster. One with her hair down, based on other artworks and illustrations that have been done based on her through the years. She will feature a kind of a factory style base. As you see here, Roberto kind of created this. On the left there, that's her riveter gun. And she's got some little factory fans and whatnot. So, and this is head style B. This is 1/6 scale. So I actually don't know how tall she is because she's sitting down, but if she were standing up, she'd be about 12 inches tall. There's the 2 different faces that it's going to include. And you can see there. Here's head style 1 and head style 2. So this is for any of you guys that were following our 1/6 scale Roberto series of Birds of War. Here it is, and that's how the kit comes. And we're looking forward to having that ready as soon as possible. And I don't know a price yet, but it's going to be somewhere in the ballpark of what Memphis Belle was, I am sure. So that is all I've got for you tonight for Shop Talk. So next, let's move along and see what Tom's got to say. How are you, Tom?
Doing well. How are you guys?
I'm good, buddy. And Tom, if you don't mind, so I don't have to keep him waiting, I'm going to plop Jeff in here with us to talk about your subject. So how are you, Jeff?
Doing well. You could have kept me waiting. I was taking a nap.
Well, yeah, whatever. Well, so this back to the bench, and we've got a cool little intro that we're working on that a little 5 or 10 second intro, and it might have something to do with getting up to 88 miles per hour.
Back to the future.
Great, Scott.
Yeah, get 88 models in your stash, and you're going to see some serious model kit builds. So anyway, well, Tom, you've got some cool stuff for us to see tonight. I'm going to go ahead and pull this up here. You've got 2 kits that we're going to look at, but in addition to just looking at your models that you built, tell us a little bit about what is kit bashing? How do you, scratch building, kit bashing? How do you get the mindset of building something that doesn't exist? I mean, tell us a little bit about how you got into this, and what goes through your head when you're starting to think about a project like this.
Well, I had seen it done in a magazine probably 15 years ago. Somebody kit bashed a FW19, it was a ME109, and made it a ground pounder, and he put wheels on it and stuff. It made it look like something out of Mad Max. And I said, well, that looks cool. So I had this old monogram kit sitting around the house that I've had for years. Used to be one of my favorite kits when I was younger because it had so many different versions.
Right.
And it just doesn't come up to, any standards these days of, how it was made or whatever. And I said, I'm going to have to do something with this kit. I think I'm going to make it into one of those apocalyptic looking vehicles like the guy did in the magazine.
Okay.
And I said, well, how are we going to do this? So I just kind of pulled out the spare parts box and kind of went through some different things. I said, okay, how we want this thing to look. I said, we're going to turn it around and make it go the other way.
Okay.
The engine's going to be in the rear, and what would be the rear of the plane is going to be the front part of it. And we're going to make some wheels and make it fit like that, and we're going to see what we can come up with. So we just started throwing parts at it.
Now, what do we got? You got some wheels. Where'd those wheels come from?
It was, like I say, it was in the spare parts box. They
Just
might be
okay.
Yeah, they're just random wheels. They might be Humvee wheels. There might be wheels off a deuce and a half or whatever.
Just whatever you had laying around.
Whatever I had laying around. And they said, okay, here's how we're going to do it.
Okay.
So we did a dry fit like that. And I said, this is the basis of how I want it to look. I said, cut the wings off, get the wheels mounted, figure out how we wanted to put the front wheels on it, and get the suspension on the rear, and went at it from that point.
Wow. Now, when you're doing all this kind of stuff, obviously there is no rhyme or reason. I mean, I guess you've got an idea in your mind of what it's supposed to look like at the end, and you just got to get it there.
To tell you the truth, I really did not know how I wanted it to look when I first started it. I just kind of went at it and said, okay, this looks cool. Let's try this,
Okay. All right.
I never drew anything out like a lot of people do. They'll draw things out the way they want them to look. I just started throwing parts at it. I said, okay, we're going to try this. Let's try this. Let's try that.
Now, I mentioned, this is kit bashing. This is scratch building. But, scratch building traditionally means you took some evergreen styrene or some balsa wood or whatever medium you use, and you start shaving stuff and cutting stuff. Kit bashing traditionally means you're taking a couple of kits and combining it to do something. How much of what you do here is kit bashing, and how much of this did you have to kind of fabricate yourself, if any?
You see the gray plastic for the door right there over the windscreen. Now that's just sheet plastic.
Okay.
And I was an industrial scale modeler for 45 years, so I had access to all kind of sheet plastic, evergreen strips, or whatever I needed to do the industrial stuff.
Okay.
And I used parts of that to do that. And like you see, the containers that are on the wing spars are Panther stowage compartments to go on the rear of a Panther tank.
Okay.
And I had, and like I say, the wheel covers are all, scratch built, and you see I've got white styrene over the windscreen to make armor plate, and that's all scratch built. And you see the front end of it, I've got, like I say, I don't know what I put in there. It looks like some sort of drive shaft that I made up.
All right. And then you mount a gun on top.
Yeah, I put a gun on a piece of scratch built, I guess that's a piece of scratch built square tubing.
Okay.
And gussets to put in. You see the white styrene. I've used it all over the thing. Got
Ken,
white tubing.
That's how ILM built all the Star Wars ships. Yeah, they started sticking stuff together. That's right.
Exactly. That's how they did it. You just pull the spare parts box out and see what looks good on it,
Huh. What do you got there? Some headlights?
Got some headlights off of some probably old car model, I guess.
Okay.
And it looks like a Nico light from a German tank or a piece of German armor or whatever, Then you see the bottom of it's got white styrene all over to cover up the gaps and make something, cover up the wheel wells and everything else.
Wow.
Just to give it a look.
Oh, yeah.
There's the rear of it. I added the exhauster made out of, tubing and exhaust manifolds and whatever I could find.
Right.
You can see the drive shaft for it right there in the bottom left-hand corner for the front drive.
Yeah, this is now. When did you do this, Tom? About how long ago?
It was probably 2010.
Okay, so it's been a little while.
It's been a long time ago, and that's the primer coat that I threw on it, saying, "Okay, what do we want this thing to look like?" I wasn't sure where we were going with it exactly on the paint scheme. I said, "Well, we'll prime it with some red primer or brown primer and see what it looks like."
Okay.
And after that, we finally settled on some sort of camouflage scheme for it.
Yeah, well, the next picture is the finished product, and it,
yeah,
all this to turn all that into this. That's that's quite amazing.
I enjoyed that kit building on that one. I like the final results. It has that sort of a apocalyptic Russian look to it, you know.
Right.
And
This is cool.
I took it to one of the AMP shows. I think it was one of the nationals they had. And they had a science fiction category, and I said, "Well, I'm gonna put this in science fiction."
Right.
And a gentleman walked up to me and looked at the model, and he had sort of an accent. He said, "It's going the wrong way." And I said, "No, sir, it's not going the wrong way. It's going the right way."
Wow. Yeah, this is cool, and I like your little street that you put it on, and
Oh yeah, I just had to put it on some sort of street scene of some sort.
right now, where did you just have to come up with some random decals out of some old kit for this?
Oh
or-
yeah, it's
Yeah.
all just out of the box, finding stuff to put on it. And if you'll look when the next one comes up, you'll see some odd things on it too that are decal.
Okay. Yep. Yep. All right. Well, this is
Hey,
great. Now, what do you recall? What figures you used for this?
I believe those are Alpine figures. I think
Okay.
they were nicer figures, and I wanted to make the figures look nice. And I said, "Well, we're going to have to stick these guys on." And I had to find one to stand on the back of the vehicle and look like he was, talking to the gentleman standing next to it.
Right.
And I think I had to do a little conversion on him to make him fit, but it did work out well.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, it looks like it was a kit produced by some funky company somewhere, and it all went together like it was supposed to.
I can say for my first try at it, I was real tickled with it. I thought it turned out great.
Okay. Now we got two. We'll look at the second one in a minute. So of the two, this was the first one that you did?
That was the first one I did, right there.
Okay. Okay.
It's been through the circuit. It's been through IPMS Nationals and everything else, and it's done very well.
Yeah, this is neat.
It
Now,
was
have
one
you
more fun bills?
have you done any more, kit bashing like this other than these two we're looking at tonight? Or is it?
I'm thinking about new ones. It's probably going to be a car-based type thing, maybe more
Right.
Mad Max or something like that.
Okay.
More than an airplane-based vehicle, but haven't come up with an idea exactly yet, but we're still thinking about it.
Okay. Wow. Well, this looks very cool. Now,
Thank you.
this being your first one, how long was it before you started your next one?
Probably about 5 years in between.
Ah, okay.
It was a little bit of a space there because I didn't know the one I based the next one on. I was looking for an aircraft P-40 kit, and it was marked for the one I wanted to build with the skulls on the front.
You're right.
And when I asked the gentleman about buying, he says, "Well, the kit's not complete." And I went, "Oh man, I want that kit." I said, "Well, how much you want for it?" I think he sold it to me for like $5, and it was missing some parts. And I said, "I think I've got an idea."
Okay. Well, good. Well, Jeff, you're kind of in awe down there, I think. I mean, what do you think about this?
I just love the fact that if you know Focke-Wulf 190s, you recognize it.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
But if you don't know Focke-Wulf 190s, you look at it and it's its own unique, like it's taken on its own identity. You know, and that's what's really cool about what you're doing is you've taken something that is extremely well known in the aviation world, and you've turned it into something that is completely dissimilar to what we come to expect from it. I mean, I think really, in all honesty, the only thing that you probably could have done that would have been a little crazier is if you had turned it into a boat or something.
Yeah, could have turned it into a boat.
Maybe that's your next project.
That could be. It could be.
You take an old monogram ME-262 and you turn it into a speedboat.
Speedboat. There you go.
And just
I'll
like
put
every
that
week,
in-
Jeff is
I'll put that
getting
in the back of my
inspired
head.
for projects.
Yeah.
Yes.
There you go.
I'm
well-
leaving this one all to Tom. I
Well,
don't have that much inspiration.
Here's your next one, Tom. So tell us about this.
Well, that's the P-40 that I bought. It was, I don't know, it might have been a Special Hobbies knockoff on a P-40N. And like I say, it wasn't a complete kit. And I said, well, we're going to do something like we did with the 190. We're going to going to make it into an apocalyptic looking vehicle and get the spare parts box out again and start scratch building and see what we can come up with.
Okay. Well, the next picture here's your base you picked.
Yeah, that's one of I think that's one of Jose's bases and
Okay.
buildings. I kind of put the two together to make kind of a backdrop for it, and it worked out very well for what I was wanting to do with it. So
Y'all still there? My internet dropped out. You went black for a second. Am I here?
You're still here.
Hey, I'm here. All right, good deal. We'll skip that one because we got finished pictures of it coming. But tell us about this little guy.
Okay, a lot of people do the apocalyptic looking vehicles. They put lizards and things like that out there. And I had a little run-in with a scorpion in my house one day, and I said, you know what? I'm going to build a little scorpion, scratch build him, and put him in this diorama or this little vignette and stick him in the background, kind of, make him a very large scorpion.
Right. Okay.
So I scratch built me one.
Well, good. We'll see him on the base here in a minute.
That's the one. That's the picture of it in the dry, so you can see everything I've used on it. I've used about everything you can think: MG34, scratch built doors and armor plates and skirts and everything else.
Now, I'm assuming that the process was basically the same as your first build.
It was. It's pretty much the
same concept, same procedure. Okay.
I just didn't turn it around and make it go the other way.
Right.
How far do you map it out? I mean, do you just kind of randomly stick stuff on until it starts to take on an identity, or do you kind of develop?
I kind of pull things out. Like I say, the front suspension I think it's taken from a Humvee kit because it had some nice springs and those would be exposed. And I thought that would look cool on the front of it. And I kind of, like you say, throw things at it, maybe take them off and put something else on until I get what I'm looking for, because I don't draw these things out. They're just something I come up with on the fly.
Yeah.
And I'll put the basic body together, maybe put the canopy on it, and then I'll start throwing gray plastic or white styrene in it and cover it up and see what it looks like. And I think the tires and wheels off that are off an old Monogram Eager Beaver Deuce and a half.
Wow.
Yeah.
From the 60s, it's an old set of wheels and tires, but they look good on it. I said, this will work.
M211, I think.
Yeah, I believe you're correct. You're correct.
Now, Tom, do you ever do something and then change your mind and have to pull it off and fix something?
Yeah, I have done that. Yes,
okay. I figured. I mean, the way you're doing it, you're just putting stuff in place to see how it looks. And I can imagine you pull something out. Man, this would look cooler there, and then you got to cut it off. And
right. I don't usually attach it permanently until I'm satisfied with the way it looks.
That makes sense. That's a good thought. Yeah,
a good way to do it. But that's kind of looking at it here. This is the parts we're going to use. Let's see what we can make it look like from this point on, and chop the wings off of it and let her go.
I didn't exactly get this particular slide in order, so I apologize about that.
That's how it started with right there.
Okay. Gotcha.
That's what it started out like. And you said, we're going to cut the wings off of it like we did the 190, and we're going to go at it at that point. And that's looking down on top of it, so you can kind of get an idea of all the gray plastic and white styrene used. And
all right,
kit parts.
Huh. Oh, I love it, Tom. This is great. Well, let's see what your end result of this one looks like.
Sure. That's what it is. I call it the M440 A1 Wheeler Scout Car. And Wheeler was a young Confederate general back in the Civil War that also fought in the Spanish-American War with Teddy Roosevelt.
Okay.
So he's never had a vehicle named after him. I said, you know what? He was kind of a fast-moving guy. And I said, I'm going to make this car is going to be named after him. And it went to the AMPS Nationals in 2017 and won the theme.
What was the theme of that, Tom?
It wasn't Confederate general. It was famous generals that are that are named for vehicles.
All right. Well, I bet nobody saw something like this winning that theme award.
I had a few comments made at me for bringing that one in there and making it, it's non-existent, of course, but they seem to have liked it, and it, like I say, it won the theme award.
Okay. And now I see your Scorpion back there on the floor, but I also see you got a little decal of a Scorpion on the front there.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's cool. Okay.
Got to kind of make it match. I think it's got some of those moon eyes they used to put on cars back in the day for race cars. They put the little moon eyes. You familiar with moon eyes?
Oh yeah, I took a bunch of pictures, so maybe we can have a good
I
picture.
don't know if
right
you
here
can
in
see it
just
on
a
there or
second.
not. I just
Yeah.
know I stuck them on there somewhere. It might have an STP sticker on it somewhere too. I don't know. But yeah, it was another fun build. I enjoyed that one just to see what I could come up with.
No, I like it. This is I don't know which one of you two that I like better.
I like them both pretty much.
Yeah.
Just really weird looking vehicles.
Oh, that's for sure.
Like I say, P-40s are my favorite World War II fighter aircraft anyway.
Right.
It's just one of my favorites. It's just got cool lines, and I just like the way they look.
You can't beat it. So there's your little buddy down there.
There's my little buddy right there. He's kind of large for a Scorpion. You don't want to mess with him.
I would not want to see him in real life.
No, you would not.
No. Huh. Now, you talked about these are the only two like this you've ever really done. You know, some people they really get into, kit bashing and scratch building, like a lot.
Oh yeah.
We talked about the Nationals. Last week we talked about those humongous ships that were there. Those were all scratch built, and
Look gorgeous.
I mean, you got to figure that I don't know this, but he most likely used parts out of other kits too, to do that.
I would say probably.
So I don't know. I've never done any scratch building. I've never done any kit bashing. And Tom, obviously you have. Jeff, I'm sure you've done a little bit, but I would venture to say that kit bashing and scratch building kind of go hand in hand.
They do. I scratch built for a company for 45 years. It was industrial stuff, not real glamorous, but it was their products. And, we took it to trade shows and it taught me my skills as a model builder. And I just said, I can turn it into my hobby, or I can, use it in my hobby as kit bashing and scratch building stuff like I like,
Right. Well,
I think what it does, and Tom, I'm sure you'll agree with me. I mean, I worked as a prototypical modeler for a number of years, and everything that you put in your hands, every piece that you pick up, every piece of stock, every piece of styrene, you look at it and you catalog it in your mind as, what can I use this for?
Exactly.
And I know a lot of the sci-fi modelers, they call them greeblies, where they take parts from other kits to make their own creations look more detailed or more complex. It's just a shortcut,
right?
To achieve the detail that you're trying to go for. But everything that, and I have used everything from springs from ballpoint pens to pen caps to everything that you look at has everything that you look at has a use in your mind for some project.
Oh yes, definitely.
Yep. Yeah, Ed just made an interesting comment. Scratch building to plans versus scratch building to your own thoughts, two different mindsets.
Yes.
There.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's
Absolutely
true.
Well, Jeff brought up something when he talked about science fiction. I did kit bash, and I forgot about this one. One of the Nito SF3D kits back in the early 90s. And I'll bring that one in sometime and let you look at it and see if it's something you want to pursue, because it was my first attempt at something, but it was more kit oriented than it was just pulling parts out and throwing at it. I kind of turned it around and made it different, and maybe added a few extra parts,
Yeah, let's take a look at it.
I'll bring it in. I call it a grasshopper.
Okay.
And it looks like a grasshopper.
Well, you're both talking about science fiction, and perhaps science fiction gets brought up when you're talking about kit bashing so much, because like Ed said, if you're scratch building a boat or a ship, there's plans for that. It's, you know what it's supposed to look like. Science fiction, you can do whatever you want. So maybe that's why it's so popular. But this new Sea Lab kit that's come out from Dahl and Hobby, of course, it's a remake of an old Aurora kit. And maybe you guys know this. People use that kit for some, I forget what it is, but something in Star Wars. They use that kit and they use all those little pipings and everything else. I don't know what they're making, if it's a trench run or what, but that is, well, that's why apparently that is why the original Aurora versions got to be so expensive, because people were buying them up to do these Star Wars scratch builds.
Yeah.
And apparently now the new one that's come out, I mean, we got guys buying them up by the handfuls just to get those whatever parts it is that they're using. So I guess some kits you buy to use as kit bash parts.
I like to buy one and build it because I thought it looked cool.
Ken Clark says he thinks they're using them for Millennium Falcons. So
when you look at, if you get a studio scale X-Wing or a studio scale Millennium Falcon, for example, you start looking at the parts that are actually on the model. Yes. And if you've been doing this for any length of time, you look at it and you go, okay, there's a set of road wheels from a Sherman tank.
Okay.
There's the oil cooler, or there's the oil cooling tank from a Daimler-Benz DB605 from the old Revell ME109 kit.
Okay.
There are just all of these different parts, armor parts, and as Ron said,
Arizona turrets on the Death Star.
Yeah, from the old Revell kit. Okay. Everywhere you go, and they think outside of the box. Like, for example, like on the X-Wing fighter on the top, you'll actually see 76 scale, because they were the Airfix kits, 76 scale Sherman road wheels.
Yes.
But they cut them in half.
Yes.
So you're getting half a road wheel, and then they have wires and pipes and things. And you'll see a battleship turret or a gun turret, and instead of barrels sticking out of it, they have hoses or conduits, or they turn a gun turret into a junction box.
Right.
And that's that creative mindset. And Ed pointed that out. I mean, I've scratch built ships, I've scratch built armor, and when you're building to plans, you're building a miniature version of the real thing. But when you're doing this, you're just creating something out of your imagination. And in a lot of ways, I think that's more difficult.
Yeah.
Well, Tom made it look easy. Look at that. Oh man.
Hey, I've been doing this a little while. It doesn't come easy, but it wasn't that difficult either,
Right. Well, this looks fantastic, Tom. It really does. And
I enjoyed it.
And going back to your first one here, but I hope you do some more of this kind of stuff, because it's neat, it's interesting, and you did. I know, Tom, you were talking about trying to see if you might get to make the trip up to Wonderfest this year. I think you ought to take these with you if you go.
Well, if I go, I will take those, and I've got a few others I would like to take.
I think they do real good in that contest. I think people would like to see them. So
it'd be cool. I'd enjoy taking them.
Oh yeah. All right. Well, that's going to wrap us up for the Back to the Bench portion of tonight's show. And so I appreciate that, Tom. But hang around with us, because now we're going to talk about USN Camouflage.
All right.
This is the Jeff Show. So what you
watching paint dry. This is like watching paint dry. So as most of you know, I started out in the museum industry.
Well, hold on a second, Jeff. We forgot to say what the name of this segment is. This is, and we're going to come up with a cute little 5 or 10 second intro. This is rivet counting.
Yeah, this is rivet counting. Yep. This is getting into the weeds. This is counting rivets. This is paint Nazi. This is, you want to. Yeah, however you want to approach it.
There you go. Well, tell us what you got cooked up for us tonight.
Well, as you know, I started out in the museum world. And in the museum world, research is, especially when you're working with artifacts and preservation and conservation of historical artifacts, research is critical for making sure that you are portraying whatever the subject matter is as accurately as it can be portrayed based on the information that you have available to you at the time. So I carried that and have carried that, and it's kind of been my jousting with windmills quest for most of my modeling life. If you're going to build something and you have the ability to make it correct and make it right, why not do that? If you want to build a Titanic model and paint it John Deere green or paint it in Green Bay Packer colors or whatever, go right ahead, it's your model. But if you want to build a Titanic and in your mind have it be as accurate as it can be, then you got to put some time into the research. So with this being my ships, I'm a ship guy, and with ships always being at the forefront, I decided that we're going to start doing a camouflage series to kind of dispel some misconceptions, especially within the U.S. Navy stuff, and to kind of demonstrate that no matter how airtight we think something is, there's always, always, always exceptions to the rules. So a couple of years ago, Ron Smith, who's in the chat here, myself, Jim Azelton, Jamie Duff, Richard Dennis from White Ensign Models, and good grief, his company eludes me now. We were kind of conspiring on different photos and camouflage doctrines and documents and all of this other stuff. And we, despite being competitors in the commercial world for a lot of our products, we do a lot of cross-researching and trading of reference materials and resource materials for the express purpose of putting as much information out there as we can to make this stuff accurate, so that when somebody buys a kit, we can give you the stuff that you need to make it as accurate as we can. So we wrote a white paper, which we will be putting up on the website tomorrow.
Yeah, that's the plan. Yes.
Yeah, that really, really, really gets into the weeds about. Thank you, Ed. Jamie Duff at Sovereign Hobby. Thanks, Ed, because brain damage. So the white paper that we'll be putting up on the website tomorrow really gets into the weeds, but we're going to do a very, very, very basic primer. So that being said, we're touching on the 90th percentile stuff for 1940, 1941. We're not going to get into the minutia. I know Ron and I would spend hours on the phone talking about the minutia of it. 99% of the people don't care. So one of the things that we have to understand as we're getting into this is that today we have instant information. Right now there are 185 people watching this. And if you were to draw a line between the 185 people and the three of us, it's thousands and thousands and thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of miles of distance that are being covered, and we're doing it in real time. In 1940, 1941, a memo was written in Washington, D.C., and disseminated amongst all of the commands of the U.S. Navy, from the Atlantic Fleet to the Pacific Fleet to the Asiatic Fleet, and then saying, okay, we're going to paint from one color to another. And then the logistics of providing those materials and getting all of the ships scheduled for repainting and things of that. It took months and months and months to make a simple thing like that happen. So we kind of have to put on our Wayback Machine and start thinking in terms of 1940s communication. So with that in mind, photo that you see on the cover, this is USS Idaho, and she is wearing the standard U.S. Navy pre-war color of number 5 standard Navy gray. If you ever hear someone say battleship gray, It doesn't exist. There is no specific color named battleship gray. So this is, insofar as the U.S. Navy was concerned, this is number 5 standard Navy gray. It's a very light color. It has a bluish green tint to it. And this was the standard color for, and I'll make an exception, for the entire United States Navy in the pre-war period. Now, there obviously were ships that were doing camouflage design studies, 1937, 1940. There were always ships that were doing experimental things under orders of the Navy for camouflage purposes. We're not going to touch on them. It's just, this is the mainstream stuff. So if we move to the next slide, the simple facts about camouflage practices in 4041, 3 basic colors. The standard Navy gray, number 20 deck gray, and I put the Japanese red brown in here because the United States Navy pre-war did actually use linoleum. It was a commonly used product in all of the navies. The Japanese continued to use it longer than a lot of other nations did. In pre-war, you can actually see photos. We go to the next slide. USS Wilson. This is a typical U.S. Navy pre-war destroyer. She's got the large hull numbers. So when you see those oversized numbers with the shadows, those are a pre-war application. They went away at the start of the war because obviously a number that size, you automatically know which ship that you're torpedoing or which ship you're sinking. And you don't, it's not a good idea to advertise who you actually are. So those numbers all got very, very small. And then post-war, they remained small, but they went back to the shadowing, but for argument purposes. So this is the standard paint scheme for U.S. Navy ships during the pre-war period.
That's what you were looking for.
Yeah. Now, this is what we would call bright deck. And when you look at this turret, you might think that it's actually white. But this particular paint was a linseed oil based paint, extremely durable. And it was almost a, I don't want to say it was a satin, but it was almost a semi-gloss finish. It was far more reflectant than a standard matte color of paint. And then the decks obviously are bare teak. The bright work on the deck, these decks probably need to be holy stone. They're not quite as bright as they could be. As you can see by the Marines standing there, it kind of matches the khaki from their uniforms. So if you're actually looking for a good semi-weathered deck color, holy stone deck actually takes on a very green tone to it when it's freshly holy stoned. But you can see just from the reflection of the light on the turret where it goes from, in the shadow, a blue-gray to almost a white under direct sunlight. Next. So here's a couple of really cool shots. Even in the Pacific, number 5 standard Navy gray tended to fade under harsh light. So all of your vertical and horizontal surfaces pre-war were painted in number 5 standard Navy gray. On the photo on the right, you can actually see what the bright decks, how they change in color when they are wet. So the deck on the starboard side of the ship is actually wet, and it changes color dramatically to a deep brown color. And you'll notice the sailors on the searchlight platform abaft of the turret, that turret is actually covered in linoleum. So that gives you a really good example of how similar the colors can actually be. So if you're modeling the ship, you can pretty much be anywhere in between depending upon what environmental conditions you want to portray the ship in. So if you're doing a ship model in heavy seas, well, you don't have to necessarily do the deck in a very light gray tan color. You could actually do it in that darker color based just on the colors of the wet deck.
Wow. That's interesting. And all the paint colors that you see out there that do call it IJN brown, the reason they call it that, correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, is because the Imperial Japanese Navy, they used linoleum for their
Yeah,
wood, and
yeah.
it's that color. So that's
Well,
why.
they use linoleum. They use linoleum over the top of steel decks.
Okay.
And in fact, if you look at Japanese ships, you'll see the tie downs, the brass. They use brass tie down strips to actually hold the linoleum panels in place. The United States and England and I'm not sure if Germany used linoleum or not. Linoleum had a tendency to burn.
Ah,
So that was one of the reasons why linoleum was discontinued on U.S. ships, especially.
I got you.
Frank brought up a question about corticine and linoleum.
Yeah, and Frank, that's the color that's out there that they're hand labeling. As soon as I saw your question, I remembered.
Yeah, the corticine, and you're diving into an area where I'm getting back into the weeds, which I said I didn't want to do. Corticine and Semtex were kind of used for the same purposes as linoleum, both waterproofing and some anti-skid properties. Corticine and Semtex, I believe, were predominantly Royal Navy and British, and I know that they were available in 3 different colors. I know one was a light gray, very similar to the deck color. One was a red brown, and one was actually a green. Asking me which ones are which, off the top of my head, I'd have to look it up.
There you go.
So yeah, but you can see the contrast, and especially with the pre-war ships, you can understand why, as war was looming, they decided that they needed to go from a light color to a dark color for camouflage and concealment purposes. A ship of this size painted in that light of a color would tend to stick out like a sore thumb at just about any distance.
Wow.
So number 5 standard Navy gray, in a peacetime Navy, to give you an idea, there was a memo that was released about the amount of paint required to be on board the ship for a single repaint of the ship. And I believe it was one of the New Mexico class ships. It may have been Tennessee. I'm not quite sure. It sent a memo to Mare Island Navy Yard saying that they had 1,170 gallons of paint on board the ship for the purposes of repainting the ship one time. So, 1,200, let's just say 1,200 gallons for a battleship, probably 1,000 gallons for a cruiser, 500 gallons for a destroyer, and you multiply that times the number of battleships, the number of cruisers, the number of destroyers, and then you look at the amount of paint that was sitting in the warehouses at the Navy yards, it equates to probably hundreds of thousands of gallons of number 5 standard Navy gray. And then suddenly the Navy decides, we're not going to use that color anymore. We're going to a dark gray color. What do we do with all this paint? So 2 things actually happened. Number 5 standard Navy gray actually became USN 1941 5L light gray. It was renamed from number 5 standard Navy gray. And then the Navy provided tinting material so that you could basically tint number 5 standard Navy gray and turn it into 5D dark gray. There were 2 types of paint that were developed. One on the left was a lighter and glossier tinted number 5 standard Navy gray to 5D. And then the other one was a PMY, or a paint manufacturing yard, which was Mare Island, and Ron will tell me if it was either New York Navy Yard or Philadelphia Navy Yard. It was one of the 2 large yards on the East Coast that were actually manufacturing the color 5D as an alkyd based paint. Philadelphia, thank you. the PMY yards was a different formula. It was alkyd based, whereas the tinted was a linseed oil based product. So it was a much darker, almost a black color, and it was dead flat. Whereas the tinted number 5, because the base paint had a glossiness to it, tinting it makes it darker, but it retains a lot of its glossiness. So this was ongoing throughout early, I would say probably April, late March to April of 1941, all the way through until 5D was terminated in production in the latter part of the summer of 41. To be able to tell from photos whether a ship is painted in tinted number 5 or PMY 5D, you really got to get into the weeds again and start looking at the glossiness and the reflectance of the ship, deck logs, where the ship was undergoing refit or modifications or overhauls and things of that nature. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. I didn't know that.
That's in the weeds. Yeah. That's in the weeds. Okay. So let's move on to the next one.
All right.
So here's an example of USS Maryland wearing the Measure 1 paint scheme, which is 5D dark gray on all of her surfaces, with number 5 standard navy gray, now renamed 5L light gray, 1941. On the superstructure above the level of the funnel. So you would draw an imaginary line parallel to the water line at the top of the funnel, and everything above that would be painted in this lighter color, and everything below it would be painted in 5D dark gray. So going back to what we were talking about originally with the Atlantic Fleet and the Pacific Fleet, Admiral King on the Atlantic side was very, very interested in ship camouflage. It was like one of his little side hustles. He was really into the development of camouflage. Admiral Kimmel on the Pacific side, he was fighting desperately to keep all of his ships from being transferred from the Pacific to the Atlantic. So he wasn't really as keen on worrying about camouflage as he was about keeping his fleet together. So as a result, everything that happened in the Atlantic Fleet started eventually reaching the Pacific Fleet anywhere from 3 to 6 months after it had already been put into effect in the Atlantic. And for a couple of different reasons. I mean, obviously, if a ship is operating out of, say, Norfolk, Virginia, and they're doing camouflage studies, that ship can go out and do its studies, come back and get repainted. And then the Navy Yard sends down new batches of paint from Philadelphia to Norfolk. It takes, a day by train for it to get there. So things turn around a lot quicker on the East Coast because of the proximity of all the manufacturing facilities. And then anything that happens on the West Coast, the Pacific Fleet at this point in time was at Pearl Harbor. The Asiatic Fleet was in Cavite in the Philippines. So it takes longer for all of that stuff to get from point A to point B. And then, of course, the Atlantic Fleet was changing its mind every 2 or 3 months about how their ships were going to be painted. And just as the Atlantic Fleet was making a change, the Pacific Fleet was just catching up. So they were always 3 steps behind. So that's what kind of led to this mishmash of ships in various camouflage patterns. And of course, Ships 2 came out, which was the actual painting guide that gave you instructions on how to do this. All of this stuff came together from like 100 different directions. So when you watch a movie like Pearl Harbor or Tora, something like that, you see all of these ships lined up and they're all perfectly painted and they're all pristine and they're all the same colors. Nothing is further from the truth when it comes to the ships at Pearl Harbor. Yes, there were ships that were painted in 5D dark gray, but there were also ships that were painted in blue, and there were ships that were painted in graded patterns and solid patterns. And some had bright decks and some had painted decks, and some of them were just a mishmash of colors because they were in the midst of repainting. And if anyone's ever repainted their their living room or their kitchen or something like that. You know how long it takes to do a room in a house. Imagine how long it takes to do something that's 700 feet long. You know, it's not an easy task.
When you said 1,000 gallons on deck to paint, I'm thinking, man, I get a gallon to repaint the bedroom, and it takes forever.
Yeah, and that was just for a single repaint, and
Yep.
and that doesn't even factor in primer coats and barrier coats.
Right.
So in the second half, and we're kind of jumping back and forth because I'm going to Atlantic Fleet to Pacific Fleet. So during the second half of 41, the Navy began implementing different camouflage applications, which from here on out we'll call measures. And some of them were overall, paint the entire ship one color. Some of them were what we call a graded pattern, which is darker on the bottom and lighter on the top, so that when you view that ship at a distance, the lower part, the darker part, blends in with the water. The middle of the ship blends in with the low atmosphere, and the high parts on the ship blend in with the brighter part of the sky, tries to throw off ranging and things of that nature. So 5D was the original color, and they added 2 additional colors in 5O and 5L, which again was originally number 5 standard navy gray. And then you could tint these colors to create 5O and to create the graded patterns. So some of the ships at Pearl Harbor were actually painted in graded patterns. Some of them were painted in overall single colors, measure 1 with the light fighting tops. Others were painted using these, but using blue colors. So it's a real mess, and we'll get into in the white paper. It breaks down what each individual ship was wearing at the time of the attack. I believe, I'm off the top of my head, but I think that there are only 2 ships at Pearl Harbor that were wearing the same color and the same pattern. Everyone else was in some variation of the different grays and blues and things of that nature. So I know, I think it was California that was wearing measure 1 with 5D dark gray, and Pennsylvania was wearing measure 1 and 5D dark gray. And all of the other ships, Arizona, Oklahoma, Nevada, were all wearing permutations of either graded patterns or measure 1C. Let's move on to the next one.
All right.
So here's a really neat photo. This is USS Augusta in June of 41, and she's wearing a measure 2 scheme, which has 5D dark gray on her hull, 5O, which is a lightened version of 5D, and 5L, which is number 5 standard navy gray on her bridge structure. Now, technically, she's painted incorrectly, because if you look at this photo, you'll notice that her superstructure around her bridge is painted in 5L, which is a very, very light color. But technically, she's only supposed to be wearing that color above her funnels. So she's actually painted lower, so it kind of throws off the actual technical orders of the ship. So in measure 2 was done away with shortly after this photo was taken. And this scheme eventually, when replaced with 5S, became measure 12. And when 5S was terminated in favor of 5N, and then of course, obviously the lighter colors correspond with the various types of tinting material. These were based off black, neutral, black and white, whereas the later colors were purple blue. But that eventually became measure 22.
Huh.
And then they did away with the 5L on the upper part, and the whole top of the ship became 5H haze gray, which is a kind of a balance.
Well, it's like you said, there's exceptions to all the rules.
Absolutely. And there were so many things going on. There were so many high-ranking naval people and departments that had their hands in camouflage and testing oh, this works and this doesn't. And then somebody on the other coast would say, well, this works here, but it doesn't work there. 40 and 41 was just like a complete train wreck insofar as any uniformity. There is no uniformity across the board,
right,
for any of it.
huh.
So by mid 41, the Atlantic fleet had already determined that 5D, that really, really dark gray, was too dark. So they switched to sea blue, which is the chip on the left. This is the color that Arizona was painted in at the time of the attack. By the time the Atlantic fleet, or I'm sorry, by the time the Pacific fleet started painting into 5SC blue, the Atlantic fleet had already decided that 5SC blue was too light, so they went to 5N navy blue. And then, you know, the Pacific fleet at that point had lots and lots of stocks of 5SC blue, and then a few days after the attack, orders came down from the Navy that make 5SC blue go away, either use up all of the stocks that you have left or tint it to match 5N navy blue. So on December 16th of 41, just a week or so after the attack, 9 days after the attack, the Navy ordered 5N, which is on the right side, as the standard base color. So no ships, to our knowledge, were painted in 5N navy blue on the right at the time of the attack in Pearl Harbor. There were orders, and I actually have copies of the actual memo, the actual official orders, that destroyers were to be painted into this color for testing purposes. During that pre-attack time, the Navy was also messing around with sapphire blue and a bunch of different shades of blue, not only looking at how well does the color actually work, but how well does the paint hold up, fading and things of that nature as well. So they were also looking at kind of the chemistry side to see how things would hold up. So I didn't get into that because that's into the weeds, and that, I mean, just even talking about the testing they did on sapphire blue, you know, that's a 12-hour discussion between Ron and myself and, you know, and Ed and Dave Waples and the guys that are in the know that, you know, really grab a hold of this stuff. There's so many different things that are going on at the same time. So this just touches on the mainstream stuff. So as a result, measure one.
And Jeff, I knew this was coming. So, but Ron's over here answering a lot of questions. So thank you, Ron. I really appreciate that. Dave was asking about the ship's captains having any say in what it was doing. But Arnell was asking about surface ships versus submarines. So
right.
We weren't ignoring you, Arnell, but I knew he was going to touch on that in just a second.
Well, I'll touch on submarines real quick. Submarines were actually the easy part. Submarines in the 1940-41 period had two paint schemes. They had Measure 9 and then Measure 10. Measure 9 was overall dull black, and Measure 10, I believe, was 5.0 ocean gray, which was a lighter color. By the time Ships 2 came out, testing had been done and determined that Measure 9, overall dull black, paint the whole submarine black, that provided the best camouflage for a sub, not only on the surface because they sit extremely low in the water, but submerged as well. Painted black, they were harder to see at depth, and they disappeared quicker at shallower depths than they did when they were painted in lighter colors. So number 10, the lighter pattern went away. Measure 9 was to remain the standard submarine camouflage pattern until the dazzle patterns came out in 1943, and then submarines only had two Measure 32 schemes. And it was as simple as a darker band of ocean gray along the side of the back of the hull. So very, very similar in their appearance. So immediately after Pearl Harbor, Measure 1 along with measures 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, which I'll not get into the weeds, all went away. Measure 9 stayed as a submarine. Measure 11 became overall sea blue, which was basically paint the whole ship 5S sea blue, but don't paint anything above the funnels in the lighter color, a la measure 1. Measure 12 became the graded pattern like we saw in Augusta, but used the purple blues. And then those morphed into measure 21 and measure 22, which were authorized in June of 42 as an overall navy blue 5N, which is what you see here. And then the graded pattern measure 22, which was from the lowest point on the hull parallel to the waterline, was 5N, and then everything above it was 5H haze gray.
Wow. Okay. Real quick, I'm just watching the chat over here. David is asking if this information is going to be available on the website, and yes, it is. Rob, was it Rob? Yeah, no, Brett. I'm sorry, Brett's asking about paint charts and cheat sheets for models in our Squadron Colors paints. This is all the stuff we've been talking about for months now that we've been quietly working on in the back end. This is all the information that we want to have on the squadroncolors.com website. So you can go and whether it's, I saw Dave a minute ago was asking about USN aircraft, and whether you build aircraft, whether you build ships, whether you build armor, we want to have this type of information for all of the different subject matter out there. But as you can hopefully imagine, this is a massive undertaking of research and preparing things. I mean, Jeff, thank you, Jeff, for putting this together tonight. But this is just 1941 and slightly before, because it's going to take a little while to do the next part of this. So all these things we want to do, we want to provide this information to you guys. I wish we could get it done faster. But we will get it done as quickly as we can and post it up to our website. And like Jeff said, the white sheet that really gets into the weeds on all this will be posted. It's basically the same slideshow you're seeing tonight, but the expanded version. And we're going to
with all the supporting documents and all of the memos and it's
all that's going to be posted to our Squadron Colors website tomorrow, and we'll have a link to it, so you'll be able to see that.
So one of the things that, and people ask me, well, why do you do this? Why do I need to know the difference between measure 11, measure 12, measure 21, measure 22? And a lot of it has to do with the simple fact that if you open up, and this is not a knock on any model manufacturer, but you open up a Tamiya kit and it says mix 2 parts of this with 2 parts of this and 1 part of this, and it gives you that color. And it's of course their paint. If you do that, then yes, you get 5N navy blue. What we're trying to do is revert back and take that chemistry, that mad scientist, Dr. Modelstein formulation out of the way. If you know that, or if we provide you research and references that say USS Boise wears 5N navy blue, then all you've got to do is buy a bottle of 5N navy blue and you're good to go. And that is part of why we're doing this. And that's part of why I've had such a kick about the educational part of it and learning the history and learning how this stuff was done, so that we don't have to do that mad scientist stuff and that we have consistency across the board.
Well, and the other thing too, Jeff, and the next part of this, whenever we do it, will be measure 12 modified. So that'll be interesting. Yeah. But Tom will probably get a kick out of me saying this. You said, why do I need to know this stuff? You don't. I mean, like you said earlier, if you want to paint your Titanic model kit John Deere green, that's great. There's nothing wrong with that.
Nope.
But some people do want to know this stuff, and we're interested in it. I mean, hey, and at the end of the day, we manufacture and sell paint. So we want to, and we have some, we keep using the term in the weeds. I mean, that courtesine color, we sell that. So I need to be able to have a document that tells people, well, what is that color? Why do I need that? And it's just something interesting. We have the knowledge, Jeff, of course, and we've got a lot of other people that we know. A lot of you guys here in the chat help us. Ron, Ed. I mean, the list goes on and on and on of people that are interested enough in what we do to help us. Because we don't know everything. I certainly don't know everything. I don't think Jeff or Tom would claim to know everything. But with a vast group of friends that we have all made through the years, if we don't know, we probably know somebody that does. So we just want to offer all of this knowledge to everybody. It's just going to take us a little bit longer than I wish it was going to take to post all these things up to the website.
And as I go ahead, Tom.
I was just going to say, my hat's off to you, Jeff, for doing all the research that you've done. I think you've done a fantastic job of getting the paint line going, and it's helped me in many ways. And I'm just happy for it.
Yeah.
I just realized that you're wearing a Hanniboo shirt, Tom.
Oh, very good. I figured it was appropriate for the night.
I like that.
I'm gonna address two things, Mark. What about Measure 5? I said when I went in that I wasn't going to get into the weeds. Measure 5 is the false bow wave. It was tested. It was found to not really serve any advantageous purpose, and it was dropped. I didn't want to get into the weeds. Measure 2 modified, modified Measure 2, which are actually different things. Measure 3, 4, 5, 6, painting cruisers to look like destroyers. We could talk about that for hours and hours and hours, and truth is nobody cares. So this was the mainstream stuff. This is the 90th percentile stuff that 90% of the modelers out there are going to actually, have a need for, that information that they have a need for. I can certainly do that.
Yeah, I told Jeff that what we'll do, I said, because I like to keep this show at around an hour and a half, 2 hours tops, and we're right there at it so far. But I said, you do have a lot of knowledge. You know this stuff. Some people do want to know this stuff, because Mark, if you're wanting to build a ship in Measure 5, you need to know. Jeff knows. So what we'll probably have to do sometime is just sit Jeff down with a few cups of coffee, turn the camera on, and say go, and record it and put it on the YouTube channel. And if anybody that wants to watch it can watch it, because it'll be slap full of knowledge for sure. So
that was the wrong one. There we go. So Dave, to answer your question, 1940 and 1941. No, decks were not painted on ships that had wooden decks. Aircraft carriers were stained with mahogany, excuse me, right up until the very last part of 1941, when they started going to deck stains in a blue. Destroyers and ships that had steel decks, they were painted number 20 deck gray, which was in conjunction with 5D, the application of 5D. Immediately after the Pearl Harbor attack, all ships, with a few notable exceptions, there were ships that came out of the yards with bright decks. There were ships that went into combat with bright decks while the crew was still painting the deck of the ship. There are exceptions, but all of the ships were supposed to go into combat with painted decks, and that would have been 20B deck blue. So
as long as you're talking about decks, Jeff, Russell's asking a question that in today's world, you'd never use wood for decks on carriers now. So why did they back then?
As Ron said, traction. The steel, when wet, is very slippery. These aircraft were getting bigger and faster. There was also an engineering standpoint. A wooden deck is much easier to repair combat damage. So
that's a good point.
And whereas battleships and cruisers use teak wood, American aircraft carriers use Douglas fir, which was readily available. There were The ship could, if the ship received damage to its deck, they could pull down and go down to the hangar deck and pull up deck planking and actually physically repair the deck while the ship was underway to resume air operations. So yeah, and aircraft carrier decks were not painted, they were stained, because when you put paint over a deck, it becomes slippery.
There you go.
So,
Cool. So Jonathan says, is the next installment going to be called Getting Into the Weeds?
you know, and I will say this directly, if this is something that really interests you, if you're on Facebook, there is the Warship Camouflage Research Group, which was a group that I actually started a number of years
all
ago.
Those guys you talked about earlier,
and all of the guys that are the best in the business are there. I've kind of stepped away because I've just got too much stuff going on. But if you really want to get into the weeds, and I mean, you really want to rivet count, join the Warship Camouflage Research Group on Facebook. Ron is a moderator, administrator over there. I believe Ed is there as well. You know, and it covers, they cover everything: German, Japanese, American aircraft carriers, PT boats. You know, we have Dr. Al Ross, who's probably one of the foremost PT boat historians in the world, and an amazing model maker. He's there, and he's kind of the go-to guy for small combatants. Yeah, so if you really want to get into the weeds, hit me up, and we can drag you kicking and screaming into that community.
Well, and let me say this too, guys. This has been great tonight. As far as our triple play, as we're calling it, the back to the bench, it may or may not be Tom next time. The rivet counting, it may or may not be Jeff. You know what you're looking at here. We're kind of like the house band at the bar. If nobody else is booked, you get us. Yeah. But
there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
We'll start playing Kumbaya.
Gonna sing. But no, in all seriousness, you know, we've got enough to talk about just between us, but we do have some other people in mind that we've already got lined up to do other things to keep it interesting. So, you know, next triple play, it may or may not be Jeff doing the rivet counting. It may or may not be about ships. If you see, if it is Jeff, chances are it's going to be about ships. But we're going to try to plan these things out, and I'm going to try to post what the upcoming shows are going to be a little bit further out than, you know, Wednesday afternoon, just to kind of, again, grow this Wednesday night show, give us something, hopefully at least a little bit different each week, and just see what this thing grows into. I mean, it's been super fun for all of us so far. I mean, I'll have to go back and look. I know it's been close to 2 years since we started the Wednesday Night Live. I know I still lived in LJ. I know that much. So it'll be neat. But we'll see how it goes.
Sounds like a plan.
Oh yeah. Well, Tom, you hadn't had much to say in a little while. So what are your thoughts on all this color stuff?
That's because I didn't let him get a word in edgewise.
Well, you sat there and listened quietly while he was talking about kit bashing, so he returned the favor. But what do you think about all this, Tom? I mean, colors in models. I know you don't really do ships, but I mean, everything he talked about, the same concept with different colors, applies to aircraft and armor. I mean, obviously they painted those subjects too. So I mean, what are your thoughts about all this being accurate versus not caring, and you know, for the kind of stuff that you build?
Well, for the stuff that I build, that's armor, you know, stuff like armor, it's in the field a lot, and it gets dirty, and it fades very simple. It fades very easily.
Right.
If it's used in the field very often. So my biggest problem was with what color is olive drab supposed to look like, you know.
Which one?
And which one? Like I say, which one?
Okay, well, there you go. You know, we'll have to do that as another. And Ed Grun said, get Dana Bell in, and we can have the olive drab discussion, because
There
you
you
have
go.
Well,
That's the one
I
would
didn't
do.
want to say it because I got to do a schedule with him first. But Dana was the author of Air Force Colors for Squadron Publishing, and he's who I've got in mind to do rivet counting on aircraft colors.
There
And
you go.
I hope to get up with him sometime soon and get that planned. Bill says, don't forget the show and tell. No, don't worry about that. Show and tell is a staple for us once a month. And I'm looking at my calendar right here because I said that I was going to plan that. And I think we're going to do show and tell for September. I believe we are doing it on the 17th, September 17th. That is the third Wednesday of the month. So I am 99% sure it will be the 17th. So get your show and tell submissions ready for the 17th. And I look forward to seeing what everybody's doing for sure. So with any luck, believe it or not, I'm actually going to have a submission for show and tell that's not something I built a long time ago. So
All right.
fingers crossed, I'll get it done. I'm working on something that I should have it done. I believe Jeff. He doesn't believe me. He's thinking, you finish a model? Yeah, right.
I know what you're gonna do. You're gonna do like a 1/35th scale ammo crate or something. Yeah.
Ammo crate.
No, it won't be that. So, all right. Well, guys, I really appreciate it. This has been a lot of fun. Jeff, I appreciate you putting the part 1 of USN colors together. Tom, thank you for walking us through kit bashing a little bit. Oh,
Enjoy.
absolutely. It's all good. So, you guys take it easy, and we'll catch you next week. Same place, same time.
Same channel.
Good deal. See y'all soon.
Have a good night, guys. Thanks everyone for your time.
Thank you guys for being here. This is always fun, and I really appreciate your support. Let me know if you need anything, as always, and take it easy. Have a good evening.